Welcome back to LDB Games. I'm Lord Darth Balls. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video, and this video is going to be about Sorath the Frost Spider. You can see the team I used here. This is floor 70 on the hard Doom Tower. Before I go into why I chose the champs that I did and their stats, let's talk about Sorath's skills and the strategies that we can use to take him down. First things first, Sorath is a Void Affinity boss, which is really nice because then you don't really have to consider affinity when deciding what champions to use. Her A1 Whiteout is an AoE ability, places a 50% decrease accuracy debuff for 2 turns. A2, another AoE, places a block buffs debuff and a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns on enemies under freeze. If they don't have a freeze, it'll place a decreased speed and a decreased attack buff for 2 turns. Sorath's A3 Absolute Zero removes all buff from enemies and then attacks them. Has a 100% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. That chance decreases to 50% instead if Sorath is under an HP burn. Also fills Sorath's turn meter by 20% for each freeze debuff placed by this skill. Okay, so all 3 active abilities are AoEs. They all have debuffs on them. What's important to know is that all of this can be resisted. With high enough resist, you can prevent all of these from landing. Now the passives. Frozen Lymph, when attacked, has a 20% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the attacker for 1 turn. And it also increases Sorath's defense and resist if Sorath is not under an HP burn debuff. This is really important, and we're going to go over her stats and where your accuracy needs and resistance will need to be for this fight. This is another really important one here. Purge by Flame. This will revive Sorath with 50% HP, a full turn meter, and all skill resets if you kill Sorath without an HP burn. It'll also respawn the 2 spiderlings. At any time, Sorath can have a maximum of 2 spiderlings in any battle, and this is the only mechanic to revive them. So if you keep HP burn on and take out the spiderlings, you won't see them again. And then you can see Sorath has the standard Doom Tower boss passives, right? The immunity to pretty much most control skills, reduced damage from enemy max HP skills, as well as reduced turn meter reduction effects on the boss only. Now the spiderlings, the first one, this is the left one, will remove all debuffs from Sorath, and it has a passive that instantly transfers any decreased defense and weakened debuffs placed on Sorath to this spiderling if they're not under a leech. When they are transferred, they're converted to the weak sauce version. So a 60% decreased defense will become 30, 25% weakened becomes 15. The second spiderling, which is the one on the right, has an attack that places a decreased defense debuff for 2 turns on all enemies under freeze debuffs. And it places a 30% decreased defense for 2 turns instead on enemies that have no freeze debuff. So either way, you're getting a decreased defense from the right spiderling. And its passive is, if this spiderling is not under a leech, it places an increased attack buff on Sorath for 2 turns each time an enemy under a freeze debuff gets a turn. So a really important thing to notice, these guys don't actually attack. They only have 1 active skill each, and they don't involve a hit. This is a debuff manipulator, and this is a debuff placer. And their passives all directly affect your ability to either do damage or take less damage from the main spider. So now we know what we're up against. Let's talk about the champions I chose and the stats that I have them. So first, probably the most important champion for me is Drexthar. Easily one of the most accessible top tier legendaries in the game. I did a guide on him. You can check that out up here. You get him through fragments in the Arena Bazaar, which is pretty cool. So he's essentially a free one with enough time invested in the game. And like I said, I bring him in for his HP burn. So his A1 is a triple hit and has a 30% chance of placing an HP burn, which is huge. So this will, I mean, this right here, you're pretty much guaranteed to get 1 every time he hits it, with the right RNG, obviously. And then he also has his passive, which when he takes a hit, has a chance of placing an HP burn. And it also increases his resistance by 10 for every enemy under an HP burn debuff. So if you get the HP burn on Sorath, that's an extra 10. If you do happen to land it on the Spiderlings, you get an extra 10 per, right? So you could potentially get up to 30. The one pitfall is that the AI on auto, Drexthar will only attack Sorath. And remember, the Spiderlings don't have hits, so they're never actually going to be taking this HP burn from Drexthar. Another thing I use him for is the accuracy. On hard floor 70 in the Doom Tower, Sorath has 200 speed, 200 accuracy, and 200 resistance. Now, that 200 resistance is only if Sorath is under an HP burn. When there is no active HP burn debuff, Sorath's resistance goes up to 475. So I use this aura to get me up to 517 accuracy, which gives me, just enough to really be able to consistently land that HP burn and not have to worry about it getting resisted or it just not landing and him getting revived with his Spiderlings. You'll see I even have Drexthar up pretty high resistance. I don't want him taking those freeze hits. I don't want him getting that decreased accuracy on the A1. He's got some good defense, good HP, survivability, and I do have him at 100% crit rate, so he can put out some damage as well. Coming in next, I got a really important sustain champion. We got Duchess here. She has on her A3, the A2, the block debuffs, which is huge for all the freezes, the decreased accuracy, the heal reductions that Sorath puts out. Remember, every attack Sorath has a debuff. The only potential pitfall with this is Sorath's A3, where she removes all buffs, right? But with a high enough resist, that can be prevented. This block debuffs will help any attackers not take the freeze. You got the increased attack, and you got the perfect veil to reduce incoming damage. She has some really cool passive here. Remember, all of Sorath's abilities are AoEs. Straight up 15% damage reduction. She has her revive with a veil and a continuous heal on it, and she has the extra shield mechanic on her A1. All excellent survivability. I have her high resistance, high HP, good defense. Survivability is the only important part. I don't care about damage or anything. All I care about is her resisting and surviving. Coming in next, I bring in Bad-el. He's a combination of sustain and damage. So his A1 has the heal, 20% of the damage inflicted on an AoE, which is nice. The A2 has the cleanse, which is huge. The continuous heals to help keep my HP levels topped up. And poison debuffs to help increase the damage on the Spiderlings, as well as Sorath to help take out those Spiderlings as fast as possible, and to have more damage output from my team. You'll see I have him in a reflex set to get this ability coming back more and more frequently. Sometimes he can get it 2 times in a row, which is it's just incredible. In terms of stats, I've got him up 240 accuracy, 250 resist, good speed, good defense, good HP for survivability. Next part of my team is probably one of my favorite debuffers in the game. Stag Knight. He was with Season 1 Battle Pass, still holding out for Season 2. He comes in with his AoE, decreased defense, and decreased attack. Now, obviously, with the left Spiderling up, this gets pulled right off of the main Sorath, the main Spider. Once he gets taken out, though, this helps you put more damage on Sorath. The decreased attack is really useful as well. Decrease the incoming damage so that my team can last a little longer. His passive comes in super clutch in this fight against Sorath because of Sorath's high resistance. So let's say, for sake of argument, Drexthar happens to miss his HP burn and he gets this increased accuracy. That'll put my Drexthar at over 750 accuracy, which means Sorath is not resisting that HP burn. He also has a really nice control on his A1, double hitter with that decreased speed, slow the boss down, allow you to get some more attacks in on him. I got him in Stalwart set, right? All of Sorath's abilities are AoEs, so this is just a straight damage reduction that Stag Knight takes. I got him upwards 300 accuracy, good speed, good defense, good HP, so he can survive. And he helps me put out more damage and take less damage. Last but not least, coming in as my main damage dealer, we have none other than Royal Guard. His A2 has the ability that scales based on enemy max HP, which is huge for, most of the bosses in this game. Obviously with Doom Tower, they have the reduced damage. However, Sorath on the hard floor 70 has over 12 million HP, which means that this ability maxes out at 1.2 million damage, which is still a truckload of damage and is worth having him in this fight for. He also has some nice control on his A3 for the Spiderlings, right? Stag Knight's A1's not going to hit the Lings, so this 4 rando hit will definitely reach those Lings, slow them down, help prevent those debuffs from getting manipulated while you are working on taking them out. And his A1 has that extra decreased defense on it. Once the Lings are down, right, this along with Stag Knight's A2, basically you'll have decreased defense up the whole time after those Lings go down, which is really nice, help increase your damage output. In terms of stats, right, full-on damage build. Okay, I did focus a little bit on accuracy for the decreased speed and the decreased defense. However, this was not my primary. I was not going and looking for accuracy. I took what I got. Right, obviously the most important part of a damage dealer is going to be that 100% crit rate. As much crit damage and attack as you can get from your gear. So that's the team that I used to take down Sorath on the hard Doom Tower floor 70. You'll notice that I didn't take advantage of the leech mechanic on the Spiderlings. Before I, show the clip of my run, wanted to talk about that real quick because that is a strategy for taking down Sorath. Right, some of the champions that you might want to use are Grush, another incredible free champion, has the leech on his A1. And then also Yugo would be an excellent choice. Where is she? Yugo not only has the leech on her A1, right, to hit those Lings and prevent the debuff manipulation. She has the decreased defense and a block buffs, which can come in really handy to also help lock out some of the Spiderlings' skills. And then she even comes in with a removing a heal reduction debuff along with a single debuff cleanse. You got to remember Sorath has a heal reduction on one of her abilities, so you can sometimes get a double cleanse from Yugo, has heal, and even has some really cool revive mechanic here. Yugo would definitely take the place of Stag Knight. I love Stag Knight. I already have him built, so I don't. And then if you are using the leech mechanics and you are keeping your run on auto, when you get to the boss, you have to actively click the left Spiderling first for your champion's A1s to go after him until you get that leech on him. That's why I don't do the leech, and the skills and champions that I chose are enough to get through the fight. So that's my team, guys. What'd you think? Right? Do you guys use a similar team? Do you use a different strategy? Are you missing one or two of these champions? Do you need some help on who to substitute? Let me know down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to help you out. And if you liked my video, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to see more of my content as I launch it. And without further ado, I'm going to throw a clip of my run in. I've been Lord Darth Balls. Enjoy the raid.